Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Race Day Scoring Certification class. I'm Matt Avery, and I'm going to be walking you through your very first introduction to Race Day Scoring and getting yourself certified. We're going to go ahead and get started. We've got a lot to cover today, and we're going to start with this first slide deck just about the general information and introduction about Race Day Scoring. So today's class is going to be two parts. First part being just a brief introduction of the software, the different concepts, and we'll give you just an overview of what all these different things mean in the software. And then in the second part, we'll be actually doing the certification class, where you will walk through on your end, importing some participants, importing some sample chip reads that we provide to you, producing reports, looking at them, uploading those results to RunSignup. A very basic type of scenario, and it's just a way to instruct you how to get things started with Race Day Scoring. And after that, you'll be taking a little quiz on your own. It's not too hard. It's just to verify that you follow the steps accordingly and so on. So before we get started here, we do have accessible in the GoToWebinar panel on the right-hand side, if you're familiar with GoToWebinar, some handouts, and you'll see 3 PDFs there. You'll see the Race Day Scoring Introduction, which is what we're looking at right now, the certification, which is the presentation for the second portion of this session, and then the virtual Race Day certification information, which is your cheat sheet essentially for the certification class. Provides all of the steps, all of the pieces of information you need, and links out to associated help guides and everything there. So if you are not sure if you have the right information, or if you are looking for something that you missed in an email, you're trying to find it in the Drive link, just use the PDF. All the links that you need are in there. It's way more simple than trying to dig around through the Drive to figure out where your thing that you're looking for is. So use that as your central piece of information for today. So if you do want to follow along with the presentation, like I said, go ahead and download those introduction and certification PDFs, and you can just follow along with me as we go. I do have a few folks on the back end here answering the questions that we may have, so you can use that questions panel and GoToWebinar to ask any questions that you have. So this first session won't be responding to too many questions on. During the second part, where we'll be actually doing a session with the software, where you'll be certifying, then you'll be able to use the questions panel if you have an issue that you need assistance with, and our team members in the back end will hop on and answer your questions, or if you have a really big problem and you can't get through it, they can send you a Google Meet link, and they'll be able to actually do a screen share session with you to get you on track if you're really far behind. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the general introduction for Race Day Scoring. So today's session is going to be long, and apologize for that. We just, we have a lot to go through, and it's important that you take your time to understand the software. So make sure you got yourself some water, maybe some snacks. We will be taking some breaks throughout, so don't worry about that too much. So let's go ahead and get started. So this first session is all about the software and the basics behind it, and what we're trying to do with the certification class. And so first thing, this training series, we really intended it to be something that we could give to timers, to give to their employees to train them on. So we're going to record this and make it available to anyone who would like to self-certify themselves in the future. So if you missed today's session, or if you had someone who would be interested in self-certifying if they missed today's session, get in touch with us, and we can send this whole content pack over to you, and anyone can self-certify at any time after the fact. So again, this is really about providing a basic introduction to timing and scoring, and today we're going to be really digging into just the software itself. So biggest thing to remind yourself as you're getting started with Race Day Scoring, on our side, we only have a limited amount of knowledge. We don't know necessarily about the specific hardware that you use. So we always recommend that if you're new to timing, that you get a support contact with your hardware provider. Maybe it's MyLapse or ChronoTracker or whoever. You have to have someone on that side that you can talk to if you have questions, because we can't answer all the questions about all the chip systems out there. That's not our realm of expertise. So certainly if you have a question about RaceDay scoring, we can help you out with that. Or if you have a question about RunSignup support can help you out with that. Or if you have a question about RaceDay can help you out with that. Important thing to understand is that you have your support network built out. So just think about who you ask questions to if you have problems. If you have like a networking issue, like that's not something that our support team is going to be able to help you with necessarily. So figure out who in your timing company is really good at networking or knows how to Google how to do things on networking so that you can solve your issues that you have with that area. So these are your different points of contact. Okay, so let's talk about RaceDay scoring. In this class, or this session, first session, we're going to be going through some major bullet points here. Managing races, participants, streams and locations, scored events and segments, age groups and top finishers, and reports. So in the slide deck that you have access to, you'll be able to click links to all of these, and it will bring you to the help guides that we have on each of these topics. So we have a pretty good help desk that you can use to take a look and read through our documentation. But we also have really good support staff. So if you have further questions as you're working through a race, feel free to get in touch with us as you go. Let's go ahead and get started. So first thing, managing races with RaceDay scoring. So in RaceDay scoring, a race is a collection of related competitions in the same year that we call events that may or may not take place in the same day, but are usually on the same day or weekend. So for example, on the right here, we have 2021 Run for Hope. That's the race. Beneath that, we have a 10K run and a 5K run. Those are events. So that's the relationship there. When we're talking about events, we're talking about like 10K run, 5K run. When we're talking about races, we're talking about, hey, on this day, there's this grouping of events. So races and RaceDay scoring are exactly the same as RunSignup races if you're familiar with how those are structured. Races can have one or many events that are generally different race distances, but do not have to be. A lot of times you find on the RunSignup side, people will create race or events for like different registration categories. Like they'll have a age-based pricing category and a club-based pricing category, and they create each of those as different events. So that's definitely a possible thing to have that you have to manage with scoring because they actually all are the 5K. So creating a race and RaceDay scoring, what are your options? You can either import from RunSignup or you can create them manually. So importing from RunSignup is the way to go if the race is already using RunSignup. The reason why is because you don't have to download participant data and import it into RaceDay scoring manually. When you import a race from RunSignup, it pulls down everything for you and the participants will show up automatically. Even if they don't have bib numbers, even if they are missing some information, everything just shows up in RaceDay scoring, just as if you were looking at it on your RunSignup dashboard. It'll appear magically when the race is connected. And the best part, future changes made on RunSignup will show in RaceDay scoring as long as you have internet, and vice versa. So basically, you'll have the syncing happening in the background as you are going, and you won't have to worry about updating or importing new entries into RaceDay scoring if you have it connected. So this is a big thing that's really nice about RaceDay scoring. You don't have to worry anymore about importing your registrants, getting the column headers correct, and then when you get some new ones coming down, you have to go and download the new spreadsheet and import those manually. That's no longer a thing you have to worry about with RaceDay scoring if you're using RunSignup. So on the other side, you can always create a race manually. Now this is really nice if you are obviously using a race that's not using RunSignup for registration. Obviously we support that, and you can just create a race and you can have the option here to publish the race to RunSignup if you'd like to. This is nice if you want to use the RunSignup results platform And you don't have to do registration with RunSignup results. You can go ahead and just set up the race and race day scoring and check that box to push it to RunSignup, and you'll be good to go. So the only thing I'll say is this is really not recommended if the race already exists at RunSignup, because again, there's you have this option to import from RunSignup, and that makes things a whole lot easier if you just start from the RunSignup registration. In that way, all the results will be tied to the right participants. And yeah, so you really want to think before you get started here, is this race listed on RunSignup or is it not listed on RunSignup? So on the left, we have our how we actually go ahead and import the race from RunSignup, and on the right, how you create a race locally, or one that you want to publish to RunSignup that didn't start from there. Okay, so let's talk about participants. How to import them, add them one by one, and view and manage participants. In RaceDay scoring, once you get things loaded, you'll see a series tabs on the left here, and there's this little people icon for participants and teams. You can click that to see all the participants that are in this race. Again, like I said, all the participants are going to show here. Doesn't matter if they are have a bib number assigned or not. Doesn't matter if they are checked in or not. It's all just going to show there, and you can decide what you want to do with them later. So if you wanted to, or you needed to for a non-RunSignup race, you can always import from a spreadsheet. Like I said, you can do that right here by clicking import. Now you can import new registrants to a RunSignup race through RaceDay scoring by just using that import function here. Or if it was a non-RunSignup race and you need to import all of your entries, you do the same thing. So if you've imported the race from RunSignup or published your manually created race to RunSignup, any adds or updates made to participants there will automatically be shown in RaceDay scoring. And yeah, like I said, if you've connected your race to RunSignup, you can always import a CSV of ads right into RaceDay scoring. No issues there at all. So participants can be added in RaceDay scoring under the participant menu by using the add button. So on here, you'll see next to the import button, add. And that just lets you type in the registrant information into a form. You can use this quick mode button, the green button at the top here, to limit the fields on the screen to only those that you really need. And you can configure what fields show in quick mode and more features like defaulting the city or the event. There's a little settings button up there to do that. And there's a keyboard shortcuts icon here, or button here. This lets you make typing in entries even faster. You can do Alt-S to save, and so on and so forth. So those buttons up there help you do data entry faster, essentially. So if you're interested in that, check those out. Next, let's talk a little bit about bib-chip files and cross-references. So a bib-chip file is like a Rosetta Stone for timing, linking time-stamped reads from your decoders to a database of athletes who have bib numbers assigned. So if you're working with a chip system that has a transponder code or a chip code that's not like a bib number, in this case, they have a chip that's associated with bib number 123, but the chip is actually ADS3241. So some systems like iPico or MyLapse Pro Chip will use this kind of system where the chips, they're used over many different races, and you have to upkeep a file to say, hey, I know that chip code ADS3241 is always bib 123. If you are using a chip system that requires this type of thing, you have to import a chip auto assignment to RaceDay scoring. So we don't pull down the chip codes from RunSignup. You have to do it in RaceDay scoring to make sure that everything gets associated there. And you can do that via the Actions menu on the Participants tab. So the chip auto assignment is a feature used to apply a chip code or a bib chip file to all existing and potentially existing athletes in the future for the race that you're working on. So generally, if you have a system that you have a bunch of reusable chips for, you have a CSV file of all of your chip codes and all of the bib numbers that they represent. So I know I had a rack that I would put all my ankle chips on, and I would masking tape them, bib 1, bib 2, bib 3, bib 4, and then I would have a file where I would make sure that I had my corresponding chip codes and bib numbers on. And then I would load that file right here into setup chip auto assignment. So as soon as a participant got a bib number assigned to them, the system would say, hey, I know the chip code for that, and it would associate the chip code with that participant in RaceDay scoring. So you have to make sure in RaceDay scoring that you always cover all of your bases if you're doing a bib chip assignment file. So basically, if someone comes in with a bib number that's not included in your bib chip auto assignment, then what will happen is that that participant will not get any reads associated with them because we don't know what chips go to them. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about streams and timing locations. This is all about making sure that the right read is selected for each participant. So let's just talk through how this all works and all the different parts and pieces. So streams are a very important concept in RaceDay scoring. What they do is they connect to timing hardware, middleware, or a folder. So basically, what we do is we have two types of connections, a direct connection or a file connection to all these different hardware providers, Chronotrack, MyLapse, RaceDay, Pico, so on and so forth. Each of those different systems provides some kind of middleware or some kind of way to get a file out of their readers, and we pull those into RaceDay scoring. So for each system, it's a bit different. So you'll want to go through our Getting Reads guides here to be able to learn more about your specific system, because each of them, like I said, is very different. RFID is a very unique way of producing chip read files, so we handle that in a very unique way. Similarly, MyLapse is different from Chronotrack and RaceDay. So if you want to learn more about your specific type of system, go ahead and check out those guides there. We do have some really great demos with actual timers showing how they manage using those systems with RaceDay scoring, and that's the best way to go ahead and get started there. So the most important thing to understand is that we're getting all of the data from the reader in a stream. We're basically saying, hey, just give me everything you got for this timing point or location or whatever they call it in the middleware. And if you go into RaceDay scoring, you'll see the next item down is streams. And this will basically give you a list of all of your streams on your computer. They can be shared between races and reused if you want. So basically, you can upkeep all of your streams in RaceDay scoring on a single computer. And when you export or import a race file, those streams that are associated with it move over to the new computer if you put it on a different one. So timing locations, what are those? Timing locations are collections of one or many streams of read data. So a stream, again, depending on the chip system you're working with, may be a single reader or it may be a collection of readers, depending, like I said, on the chip system. Each one is handled differently. But generally, timing locations are, it's their one or a couple of streams. But basically, what they do is they allow you to filter the read data coming from your actual readers through the streams based on the time of day that you set. So first off, though, they are filtered based on the location type. So basically, a read at a start location, we pick the best read based on the last time seen. And for finish or split locations, the reads are selected based on the first time seen. So as you're going through RaceDay scoring, you'll see that you can create a location that is either a start type or a finish type or start and finish type. And based on your selection there, that will change how we select each read for each participant that is seen on the all the streams connected to that location. Most importantly, timing locations are where you set up your time filters. These filters allow you to control what range of times should be considered valid for this timing location. You can learn more about setting this all up here in the Add a Timing Location guide. Basically, there's two things that happen. We filter down a range of times to say I want to only select finish times after 9:15 a.m. And then within that range, select the very first read scene for each participant. That's what a finish location would look like. For a start location, you might say, give me all the reads until 9:02 a.m. if it starts at 9, and it will always pick the very last time scene because it's a start. So it's basically the way to parse out that data from your streams. So timing locations, again, give you that ability to filter the raw reads coming from the streams connected to a location by the time of day. So start reads can be considered until a set time, usually a couple minutes after the gunshot, and the finish or split reads can be considered starting at a set time, usually a couple of minutes prior to your first expected participant there. So it is possible to connect a single stream to multiple locations if needed. This is useful for situations where there is a single finish area for more than one scored event, but you want to have time filters that are specific to the scored event using that location. So this is really helpful if you have, let's say, a marathon in the morning and then a 5K in the afternoon, and you want to make sure that you have a set filter range that makes sense for the 5K and the marathon, but you're actually using the same reader. So you can say, I have a single start finish reader that is connected to two different locations, one called 5K start finish, one called half or marathon start finish. Each of those locations has its own set of filters. The stream itself can be connected to both. So these filtering rules, combined with how timing locations select reads, last seen read for starts, first seen read for finish and split, make it easy to ensure you get the best read selected for all participants without having to worry about participants walking around the finish mats with their chips on after they've already finished, and participants wandering over the start mats before the gunshot goes off. It's a very typical question we'll get from new timers. They say, well, I want to make sure that no one crosses the mat again after they've finished, and they're trying to marshal that. But it isn't a problem because in RaceDay scoring, we only pick the first scene read for each of the people there. We say that's the best option for a finish the very first time we see them there. And alternatively, we'll always pick the last start scene. So you don't have to worry about participants walking over the start mats before they start. It doesn't really matter. And you don't have to worry about participants standing on the start mats right when the race is about to go off, because we just take the last time that they cross or are passing over in order for that start time. So in RaceDay scoring, you'll see these boxes here that talk about the different time filters when you're setting up a location. In this example, I have a common start finish location, and you'll see at the top, when do I want to stop collecting start times? All raw reads collected before this time are going to be considered as a potential chip start time. We're going to use the last time seen for each participant and mark the rest as ignored. All raw reads collected after this time will be ignored and not considered as potential start times. So basically, we're going to say here that this is my cutoff for starts. Everything after that is not valid for a start time. On the other side, if you have a set up as a finish or split point location, you set this to say everything after this time is going to be potentially accepted, where everything before that is going to be ignored. So this is a really important thing to understand with RaceDay scoring. You have to set up these filters to ensure that you are looking at the right set of data. So make sure you set your start time to be a little bit after your actual gunshot, if you are using start reads at all. If you're not, you don't have to worry about it. And then your finish, make sure that you set it right about just before the time you anticipate your first finishers. So it's a 5K, maybe like 13 minutes or 14 minutes. If it's a 10K, maybe like 31 minutes, something like that. So in RaceDay scoring, you can just go right here to timing locations, and you'll see by default we create start and finish for you. And you don't have to use these defaults. You can delete them and create new ones. It's just a starting point for you. Sometimes, like I said, People will like to have specific locations for each event that they have because they like to be able to filter down the reads based on the event that's selected. Now, you can also use a common start finish location, which may or may not be right for you, maybe better, maybe not be. Totally depends on the type of setup you're doing. So you have a lot of flexibility here. You can go ahead and use ones we send you by default when you create a race, or you can use that add location button on the right to create new ones, and you can delete the ones that are existing on the right using the little X's. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the concept of reads in race day scoring. So we're chatting a lot about how your timing locations are filtering out the reads that come from your streams and ignoring reads that are outside of that range. So there's two types of reads because in race day scoring, we want to be able to let you see all of the data, but at the same time, only use the data that you actually intend for scoring purposes. So we show you raw reads, which are basically unfiltered data from the device's middleware files within folders that your streams are connected to. And each of those raw reads could be selected to be used as a scored read, depending on a multitude of factors. So raw reads can be ignored for a variety of reasons. They can be filtered by bib or time. They can have, and that means basically that your time filter is saying, hey, this is outside of the range you provided, or on the timing location, you can also filter by bib numbers. It's outside of the bib number range you provided. A better read could have been selected. So let's say you had someone with 4 finish times. We always pick the first one. So the other 3 are gonna say, hey, there is a better read selected, the earlier one for a finish. And similarly, if you had 4 reads at the start that were after the gunshot, well, we always pick the 4th one, the later one, and the first 3 will say better read selected. In unknown bib or chip, this means that, hey, I got a read for a bib, but I have no participant to look at for that bib number. Occurrence not defined means that I had a timing location that I said I was expecting to use. Like let's say I had 3 occurrences. If there was a race that they were doing 3 laps around a single loop or something like that, and someone does 4, it would say occurrence not defined for every occurrence after 3. Later segments already completed. This is a very rare situation. Sometimes people have a setup where they say, I want to make sure that they are not able to complete a certain segment before or after one has already been completed. Rarely ever happens. No event for bib is something that comes up a lot, and it could be for many different reasons, but usually it's because the read was at a location that was not being used for an event. So if you had a location set up that was not used for anything, like you just created a checkpoint location, but you didn't say it's the part of a segment or a split or the finish for an event, then it would say, hey, there's no event association for this bib number. I don't know what to do with this read. So it just says no event for bib. Extra finish occurrence means that it just got another occurrence after the finish that it doesn't know what to use it for. Use selected read is specifically if you are using the open-ended timing situation where you basically have starts and finishes throughout the day and you've overridden which pair of reads to use. And occurrence not used in segments is similar to no event for bib. So scored reads, what are these? These are basically created from raw reads. So it's a duplication, essentially. We take and pick out one of these raw reads and say, hey, this is the best finish for this participant. So it creates a scored read based on that data. So for each bib, that best read is selected from the raw read data, collected from all streams, connected to that timing location. The timing location is the start. Again, we pick the last one seen up until the time filter cuts it off. If it's a finish or a split, we select the first one seen starting at that time filter. These reads are used to calculate your segment times based on your scored event and segment setup. So we're going to talk about segments in just a minute. But basically, we pick and choose these timestamps, so the time of day that someone passed over something, to calculate all of the times in race day scoring. So we say, hey, I know they crossed the start line at 9:02:58, and I know they crossed the finish line at 9:32:57, and RaceDay scoring does the math between those two timestamps and produces a finish time for them. So in RaceDay scoring, you'll see on the right that there's this raw reads data at the top and location-specific reads towards the bottom on the right-hand column. So the top is raw reads, and beneath that are what we call those scored reads, the filtered data. So you can actually click those numbers in RaceDay scoring to view more data or information about those reads. So the raw reads, you can view all sorts of stuff like the participant's name, the chip code if you have chips, if it was used or not used, if it wasn't used, why it wasn't used, the date, the time, the 24-hour time, and other info depending on the system type and a few other factors. In the scored reads, you can also view some of the information you see there. You don't have access to view all of the data you saw in the raw reads, but basically here you also have the ability to edit any scored reads or add scored reads if you needed to do that. Okay, so talked a bit about the read selection, and we're getting into how we calculate times. So this is really getting to the point now where we are determining how we calculate the finish times and splits and things like that for participants. So this is all about telling a system how to use the reads that have been selected in these prior systems to produce times. So before we get into this, let's just talk a little bit about scored events. So scored events are basically, we have this collection of events from your registration software, and maybe all of the registration events need to be combined into a single scored event. So at RunSignup, let's say someone set up a 5K run, a 5K walk, and a 5K club pricing. Those are all what we call registration events. And what you may want to do is put all those together into a single scored event called 5K run, because they're all getting put together for scoring purposes. So we always recommend that basically you have a scored event for each distance you have. But essentially, whichever you want to have a main list of events or results for, you want to have a single scored event for that. So if you have a 5K, and let's say you have like this, so you have a 5K run and you want your main results to include everybody together. And then you wanted a second report that is like, hey, just show me the people who are in the club. You could do that. And you could filter out your report to just isolate those who said that they're in the club pricing. But the main report will be all of them together. So you'd want to combine them all into this single scored event called 5K run. So this is really more important if you're using a registration provider like RunSignup, and they have these multiple events. For non-RunSignup races, it's usually just one-to-one, because you're just saying, hey, I got a 5K, and you're got a CSV, and you may have already changed all these registration categories to something else when you manually fixed up your spreadsheet. But it's just good to understand that there's two things going on here. There's registration events and there's scored events. Registration events are like where the data is coming from. Scored events are like, hey, how do I want to combine that data together? So you'll see on the left here, scored events. And you'll see that you can go ahead and select these checkboxes for each of the registration events you want to include. And you'll notice we put the distance in there, and that's because we require that events that are of that are different distances cannot be included together. So you would never want to have a 5K and 10K scored event together, because it wouldn't make sense. None of the times would make any sense at all. So you have to make sure that if you're using a RunSignup race, that they actually have the correct distances set when they've created the race, if they are doing this type of thing where they have a 5K and a 5K club pricing and whatever. So you have to be careful. If you see that the box is grayed out, like this fun run and walk right here is grayed out, that's because the distance is not the same as the 5K, 3.1 miles. And it is specific to like the pace type here. So like if it was the fun run and walk was 5 kilometers, it still wouldn't be exactly the same as 3.1, so we would restrict you from selecting it. So you have to change and make sure that these are all the same exact distance if you want to include them in the same scored event. So to get started with this, you basically just come into scored events, and most of the time click quick setup. What this does is it will automatically create scored events for each registration event you have. In this race, I just had a single 5K, so it'll just go ahead and plop in a single 5K scored event. So each scored event has an area to select the start and finish timing locations to be used. This will tell the system which timing locations that you've set up to use for the entire race segment for this scored event, which is what is used to show the finish times for participants and reports. So basically, you'll see here on the right, I have a start timing location and a finish timing location. This will tell us for the entire race, the 5K run, where do the participants start and finish. You can say that I am not timing the start just by selecting not a timed start, but you have to tell it what location you want to use here. And so we now actually will show in this area if you are doing a race that finishes on the second occurrence of the finish. So if it's a 5K and a 10K, it will show like for the 10K, you'll want to finish on the second occurrence, and on the 5K on the first occurrence. You can do that right from here in the newer update. So in the scored event setup, you'll see down here, this actual start time area, that is where you will be setting the gun time. So the gun time is basically something that it's just a timestamp. All it is a time of day. So there's no such thing as starting the race in race day scoring. All you're doing is saying, hey, the race started at this time of day, and then it figures out the math and the difference between their reads and the time of day that the race started. So you never have to worry about like, oh, did I start the race? Oh no, I forgot to start the race. What do I do? It's just putting a timestamp in this actual start time field here. So if you want to, you can use the computer clock to set to a current time, and it will just timestamp right now. Or you can go ahead and type in the time that it actually started. So you can do whatever you want with this. I know I used to have a GPS watch, and I would just record my gun time with that and make sure that my GPS watch is synced with all my readers, and then plug in that time of day when I got it. So you can also do things like setting the start time from the race dashboard, and you can even import a gunshot marker from your reader if your reader supports that. We have some guides on how to do all that kind of thing here. We also have a bunch of different options for starts, like chip starts, corral starts, and more. You can learn about all those here. And more information about setting up scored events in general is right here. So there's a lot of content, and if you have questions about this, always feel free to reach out. And again, that's where we set the actual start time for each event. So let's talk a little bit about scoring by chip or clock. So each scored event can be scored by chip or clock time. Chip times, they use any reads seen after the start time. There are no reads after the start time, then the actual start time is used instead. Or if they had a corral that they were assigned to, that could be used too. The pre-gun start times are ignored by default, but they can be used if desired to calculate chip times in the scored event setup. So by default, you'll see here, like a participant, let's say they started way back behind the start line and the gun went off, and then at some point they crossed the start and then they went over to the finish. Their gun time is going to be longer than their chip time because they started way back from the start and it took them some time to get to the start itself. So their gun time and their chip time will be different based on the amount of time it took them to actually hit the start. So with each scored event, you can decide whether you should be sorting the default report based on chip or based on clock time. And that could be pretty different depending on how deep of a start you have. So right in here, you can see where you decide if you wanted to sort by clock or chip time. So I did mention the concept of an entire race segment. By default, we have this, let's just start from here. Segments are what RaceDay scoring uses to calculate the times and the paces for participants. So basically on the right, I have a little diagram. I have a start location and a finish location, and connecting the two is what we call a segment. It's the time that is the difference between their read at the finish location and their read at the start location. So segments use timing locations as start and end points and calculate the time it takes to get between them. So again, each of those locations, it picks one read that is the best for that participant. So at the start, it picks the last one. At the finish, it picks the first one. Now it can also do things like, you can set an occurrence on there, so it will pick up to 5 reads for each participant. But the point is, you're basically saying at the start, I have a single read that I want to use. At the finish, I have a single read that I want to use. And the segment is the difference between those two times. So all scored events have an inherent entire race segment. That is simply the time it takes to get from the very start to the finish line. Additional segments can be created starting and finishing at any timing location that you have set up. So if you had a start and a finish, but you also had a checkpoint, you could create a segment that says, what is the difference between the start time and the time that they hit the checkpoint? And then you could have another one that is, what is the time it took between the checkpoint and the finish? And then you could have those segments could be first half and second half. If you were doing a 10K, it might be first 5K and second 5K. You can create anything you want here, and we have a guide on setting those up at the bottom. So that's in this segments area. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about age groups and top finishers. These are your standard awards categories and allow you to build out reports and categorize participants based on their age and their gender and a few other things if you want to. So age groups are a breakdown of participants within a scored event based on their gender and age. RaceDay scoring generates a default age group report for you when you set up age groups for that scored event. For example, a 23-year-old may fall into either the 20 to 25 band or the 20 to 29 band based on how the race organizer wants to award their participants. So you can set up those different ranges and they can be placed into those categories based on their age and their gender combination. Top finisher categories are a way to give awards to some top select group of participants. Most common you'll see are a top 3 overall male-female, and then top masters male and female, like a 40+ category. And you can do even more complicated things like custom top finisher categories based on a custom question response. So on RunSignup, if they had set up a custom question, you could import that into RaceDay scoring, and it would allow you to say, hey, give an award to the top 3 Clydesdale finishers in this scored event. And you could do that by following the guide here. So if you go into the awards icon here on the left, age groups and team classifications, and then click set top finishers, you can go ahead and get started with setting up, oh, I have the wrong thing. Should click the range insert button, and this will let you add a range of age groups. So basically, this is the screen where you would add a bunch of ranges of age groups. So I say 10, meaning 10-year age bands, what genders are included, where to start, where to end, how many are included as winners in each band, and then whether or not I want to insert upper and lower age groups. So we'll be walking through this later. This is the basic concept. Top finisher categories, again, we'll be talking through this later, but this is the basic setup screen for how you would do that. Okay, so reports. Viewing, printing, and customizing result reports. So reports are created for each scored event and can have one or many report sections within them. So you can have a single report, you can have multiple reports, you can have a single report with a bunch of report sections in it, you can have multiple reports with a bunch of report sections in each of them. So we're very flexible and allow you to kind of build anything you like with reporting. Scored events can have different report sections available to them based on their setup. For instance, a scored event without age groups cannot add an age group report section to a report. And a scored event without team scoring cannot create a team summary report. So we do restrict you if you are trying to add something that isn't possible, we don't let you. So some default reports are created automatically when saving different parts of the application. Scored events, when you save that screen, it will create a scored event name overall report, like 5K run overall report. And age groups report will be created when you create when you save age groups for the 5K. So it'll say 5K age group report. So we just build these for you as a way to make it a little bit easier so you know what's available to you. But you can always build your own reports or customize the existing ones. And it's very flexible. It's a little complicated, but we recommend that you check it out and play around with it. We do have some guides on report building here. But basically, you have to understand, we just build some default reports for you. You're not stuck with those. You can customize them. You can build new ones. You can do whatever the heck you want. So to access the reports in RaceDay scoring, go down to the reports area here, and you'll be able to see all the reports listed. If you click a report, it will bring up the report itself. And if you click Actions, Edit, you can view all the information about it. So in the report builder, you can, within each section, I have a 10K overall section in this one report called 10K overall report. And you can edit the columns. You can drag and drop the columns around to change the order of them. You can rename the columns and do more at the top there. In the add columns, you can say, hey, I want to actually show some more information. Like I want to show let's say, their custom question response in there. I want to show they responded Clydesdale or whatever. You can add that field in. You can add different times. You can add whatever you want, and then you can move it around to place it wherever you want it to show in the column order. And the filter section is where things start to get a little complicated, but really powerful. It allows you to filter the data from this report down based on some other data. So you could say, I want to only show participants who are from some city, or you want to only show 5 participants deep in this, or you want to show non-starters and non-finishers in this report as a way to just preview what the report's going to look like. There's a lot you can do with this filtering. It's a really good thing to do here is to check out a race that's already completed that you have, or pass some fake reads through and play around with the scoring filters to see what happens when you try it out in some different data. It's very, very flexible, very powerful. So if you do want to build a custom report, just use that build report button in the top right. Fill out the report title, select that you're going to add a report section. So now we're in the process of actually adding a section to this report. So first pick what event you're adding a section for, and then at the bottom, select what type of section you're going to add for that report. So it's really important to understand here when you're building out scored events that you can't combine 2 scored events together. So this is why we always recommend that you have a single scored event per distance, because it's not possible to combine 5K and 10K results together here. They always show as separate sections. So if you needed to do something like have that club members show in a different report, what you'd actually want to do is have everybody into one single 5K event and then use that filtering that I was talking about, that custom filtering area, to say, now give me a new report where I only show those who are in the club registration category. So that's how you can do some more fun things with reporting. So now let's talk about auto-saving reports to RunSignup. This is how you actually publish results to RunSignup. By default, with RaceDay scoring, nothing happens when you get results in. It just produces some reports. You can look at them, but it's not automatically pushing things to RunSignup results. You have to tell it to do so. So if you're testing things out, don't worry. You're not going to overwrite any results on RunSignup. You have to go and say specifically, I want to auto-save this report to RunSignup. So you'll see here, some reports are available to auto-save and other ones don't have those buttons. And what you'll see is that all of the age group reports are not available to publish. Well, that's because you don't have to. When you publish an overall report, we automatically add all of the age groups for you. As long as you have there's like an age place column in the overall report when it builds by default. As long as you have that, that includes all the information that we need to put all the age groups up on RunSignup, and they'll show in the dropdown. So if you wanted to publish all the results for the 10K, including all of the age categories and everything, just click autosave settings and go in and set this form up. So we have some guides on this, and we'll be walking through it more in depth later. Okay, so finally, how do you get help with RaceDay scoring? Obviously, this is a really complicated piece of software with a lot of features and a lot of things that are different based on different race scenarios and the different chip system that you use. Everybody has different chip systems that they use. Even those who use a single chip system may use it in a different way than others. And each race has different requirements about how they expect scoring to work. Some people want to make their top finisher categories taken out of the age groups, other ones don't. There's a lot of flexibility and a lot of complications with this. So the best thing you can do is use this Get Help icon in RaceDay scoring and send us a help ticket. If you're in the middle of setting something up and you're just stuck, you're like, man, I feel like I'm doing this wrong, or I don't know where to go next. We have a bunch of people on the support team ready to help you out at any time, and even on the weekends. So we recommend that you go in and click Get Help and then send, and this will send a ticket to our support team, and it will include the race setup at the time that you sent the button, and it will actually allow them to see your setup and give you advice on how you should change it. So best thing you can do is say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make my top finishers get removed from their age groups or so on and so forth. And basically that will help us point you in the right direction. Because like I said, everyone is so different. All these requirements are very unique for a lot of these events and complicated sometimes. So try and get ahead of this, try and set things up as early as you can, and get help when you need it as soon as possible so we can get you pointed in the right direction. Now, if you really want to have a sit down, like hour and a half or something like that, and with one of our training members, you can do that right in here as well. So you can book a training session for RaceDay scoring at the bottom of this screen. This will set up a time with you with Chris McDonald, who is our training expert, and he'll do he's an all-star timer himself, so he uses the software on a regular basis, and so he's got a lot of great experience built up with how to best configure the software, and you can set up a session with him. And we always recommend for those sessions is bring up an example of what you're trying to do, or like have an old race that you want to rescore in RaceDay scoring, and he'll walk you through that. So the best thing you can do is have a set of questions about, hey, I'm trying to do this, or I have this example of a race I want to try to set up, and he'll be able to give you the best practices there. And then at the top, obviously, we have the View Help Guides link, which just brings you to our documentation and help page. Okay, so this is the end of the first part of today's session. So what we're going to do now is take a little bit of a break, and we will come back in, let's say, 15 minutes. So we'll come back at 1:10 p.m. Eastern Standard, and we're going to get started into the actual certification class. So let's go ahead and open up the next here. Were there any questions that came up that I should bring up to everybody?
Nothing in particular. Sean, I think we're gonna get back together at 1:10 p.m. Eastern time.
I will put up a little slide here, and it will show when we are going to come back. All right, I'm back, and we're gonna get started with the second part of today's session, the actual certification class itself. So you guys had a nice little break. We're gonna get started in just a minute here to make sure that everybody is back on and ready to get going. Okay, so I think everybody is back on and ready. So let's just talk about what we're doing today on this session. It's basically just how to create a very simple race with race day scoring. We're going to cover all the topics on the right in depth. At the end, we're going to be having a simple quiz to make sure that you paid attention and followed along. So we'll be going through how to download and install race day scoring, how to create a RunSignup race in race day scoring, how to import an example participant list, how to set up a file stream to import example times, how to create a location and map your stream to it, how to set up events and age groups, how to collect reads from your stream, how to view the reports and publish results to RunSignup. So we are going to be taking it fairly slow today. Before we get into it though, just so everyone knows, again, if you have questions, use the panel on the right in GoToWebinar to enter a question for our staff members. If you're in need of desktop assistance, if you're stuck on a step and you're falling behind, please just say, hey, I need, I need assistance, or I need desktop assistance, or whatever, I need screen share help. Go ahead and request here, and we'll have one of our staff members shoot you a message with a link that you can use to set up a Google Meet with them so that they can view your screen to assist. So important things for today, we do need you to have a couple of items. So you have to make sure that you have a Windows PC. So the Mac version of RaceDay scoring does not work for collecting reads. So you have to today, in order to finish a class, have a Windows computer. So before we get started here, let's just make sure, does everyone have a Windows PC for today? So go ahead and respond to the poll. All right, good, I see most people have responded. Some responses still coming in. Good, looks like everybody who has responded so far said yes, so that's good. And a RunSignup timer account is required. Now, you should have one if you have downloaded RaceDay scoring. You need one in order to download RaceDay scoring. So if you don't have one, we can walk you through how to do it. You have to make sure that you have RaceDay scoring, the most recent version, 3.1.51 installed, and some patience. We're going to be taking things slow to make sure everyone's on the same page as we walk through the very basics of RaceDay scoring. So again, this is not going to be an advanced training session. We went through things pretty fast in the last session about the general overview of things. But today we're really going to focus on a very simple, straightforward scenario. And hopefully with the knowledge you get from both of these, but can get you on the right foot as you learn race day scoring, and you can apply what you learned here to some of the more advanced things we learned in the first class. So let's just see. Does everybody here have a RunSignup timer account? All right, good. Looks like everybody has got an account. That's great. And do you have race day scoring installed on the computer you're working on today? All right, looks like a few folks do not have it installed yet. So I will just show you how to do that. It looks like a few folks have not done that. So I'll definitely make sure to cover that. Good. And before we move on, one final thing I wanted to ask everybody was just, have you attended a race day scoring certification class prior? So this is about race day scoring specifically, just so I get an idea of background knowledge we have already here today. All right, good. Looks like a majority have already taken a class, maybe getting a refresher on things. Cool. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. First, how do we download RaceDay scoring? So, if you already have it installed, go ahead and make sure that you do have version 3.1.51. You can see right on the main landing page of RaceDay scoring, 3.1.51, if you are up to date. If you're behind, it will say update available right here. And so you can just click update available and it will tell you all the details about the updates in the latest version, and you can download it or decide not to download it right there. So we do recommend that you are up to date to the latest version. Now, if you are on a very, very old version of RaceDay scoring, you may find that the download of the up-to-date version takes a really long time. If you're way back in time, like version 2 dot something, you might be better off just downloading the new version right from the timer dashboard instead of doing the in-app updaters. This is really best if you're upgrading every week or so. When we push out updates, just go ahead and keep up to date. But if you're like a year or two behind on updates, you're better off just downloading a fresh version and installing from the timer dashboard, which we will be covering in just a minute here. So in order to install RaceDay scoring, you have to set up a timer account. Sounds like most of you already did that, but this will allow you to download the software, additionally give races an easy way to grant you limited access to their events. If you already have a timer account, you don't need to create a new one, just use your existing timer account. So if you go to your timer dashboard under scoring, under software, click download, and then find the Windows button here, and you'll just be able to download it. So let me just walk you through that. So first thing you'll want to do is runsignup.com/timer. Very simple, runsignup.com/timer. This will bring up any timer accounts that you are associated with. So my user account is associated with a single timer account called Avery Timing. This is like a representation of my company that I work for. Each company can have a bunch of different users associated with it, but this is the one that I am associated with. I'm not associated with any other ones, but I could be. So just go to dashboard. This will list out any races that have said that my fake timing company is going to be scoring their event. So it'll list out any events that have been associated with my timer. Now we're going to go to software, then download. And right here, just go ahead and check this box to agree to the terms. Click the Windows button to download it, and you'll just see the downloads here, and it will, you can open this up and install it. And if you are updating an old version of RaceDay scoring, you don't have to uninstall the existing one. You can just install it right on top, and it will run and install RaceDay scoring for you automatically. So that's all you would need to get things started and get the software loaded onto your PC. Once you have it, you can start it up and you should see this. So if you are, if you have a subscription to RaceDay Suite, you would enter the serial number here. If you're a user of Race Director, you can find your existing serial number here, which will work. It's the same one we use across all our software. If you are just testing things out, you can just go ahead and use demo mode for now. There's no restrictions on demo mode. You can just use it as is. But if we see that you are abusing it and publishing a bunch of results for real races, we'll probably give you a phone call and ask you to pay you up. So you should get to here and you'll see the product info and everything like that. So let's just make sure everybody is able to download the software and get started with it. Oops. I can't relaunch the poll, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of time. Looks like some folks are having some issues and may need some help getting this installed. So if you do need help, go ahead and put your question into the panel here, and one of our team members will assist you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and continue on here. Again, we'll be able to, we're going to record this session. You can always catch back up and watch it later, and don't feel too stressed. So let's just keep going for everyone else who is good to go. So again, like I said, you can use RaceDay scoring in demo mode. You will need to enter in RaceDay Suite license code serial number when timing races in the future. Next step for today's class is to access the participant and chip read files. So in the handouts section of GoToWebinar, we have attached a few documents. One of them is the virtual RaceDay certification information. And that is what you'll want to click on and use to follow along with today's session. It will include links to download all of this info. So if you go into here under handouts, you'll see that we have this document. Looks kind of like this. We've updated it a little bit. So I have it on my desktop here. It's called Virtual RaceDay Certification Information, and it'll look something like this. So once you get this, we're going to have links to the presentations themselves. If you wanted to follow along, you can click it, and you'll be able to view that.
Hey, Matt.
We're not seeing that.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, we're not seeing what you're talking about.
Oh, let me try and do this. You see it now?
There you go.
There we go.
Cool. So importantly, you can download the participant list and chip read file right from here. So just you can click this, and it will go ahead and download the sample participant list and the chip read file right there. And a link to the quiz, and then all of the steps that you need to follow in order to complete certification are listed out right here. So if you get behind, you can go back to this doc and you can just follow along the steps manually. Don't worry if you get too far behind, everything is possible if you just follow the steps here. So everything you need right in this doc, make sure you've got it. So let's just make sure that everybody was able to find the document, have access to it, and we're able to see the links and download. So were you able to download the virtual certification PDF? Okay, looks like most folks were able to. A few still having trouble. If you're really still having trouble, feel free to put a question in the panel here. So in GoToWebinar, on the right in the screenshot here, you should see a handout section. You should see a virtual certification information document.
Matt, can you close the poll and then you can show it?
Oh, yep. On the left here, you should see in the handouts section of GoToWebinar, there's a virtual certification information document. That's the one that you want. Looks like everybody's got it, so that's good. Like I said, this is a thing you'll want to keep handy throughout the class today in case you get behind, or if you want to skip ahead, you can go ahead and use this to proceed. So first thing you'll want to do, just to have everything kind of ready to go, we downloaded the sample participant list and the sample chip reads file from the document right here. So these two links, go ahead and click them, and it will download those in the background for you through your browser. So depending on where your browser puts your downloads by default, you can find these. So, I have them right on my desktop. Actually, well, here. So I have my sample chip reads, my sample participant lists. So I'm just going to move them. I'm just going to move them over to my desktop and show you what we're going to do here. So I need to extract these from their zip. So in Windows, just go to sample participant list and extract all right here at the top. And I'm just going to extract it. All right. Now I'm going to go to my sample chip read zip file. I'm going to extract that. And now I've got my sample chip reads there. So I already had some on here. Oh no, I didn't. Good. So I just have a sample participant list in here and a sample chip reads file in here. Okay. So moving on. Once we've got those, we will be ready to get started actually creating the race and race day scoring. First thing we'll want to do is open up RaceDay scoring once you've got it installed and updated, and click the Manage Races link here. So let's go ahead and click Manage Races. Now we're going to click Create a New Race right here at the top. So let's, in the software, just create a new race. Next, we're going to add in some information about the race itself. Race name, the time zone, the location of the race, URL, and the email. So first, we want to make sure that we are going to be publishing this race to RunSignup. For today's session, we are going to basically mimic what you would do if you were creating a race for an event that didn't use RunSignup for registration, but you wanted to use RunSignup for results. So go ahead and just click Publish Race to RunSignup, and that's going to open up some new fields to you here. And it will ask you to log in, so just make sure you put in your RunSignup password. Okay. So next, we're gonna figure out what we want to put in all of these different fields. So for today, you can just put in your name and race day certification for the race name. This is just so we can tell that it's not a real event. So I'm just going to call it Matt Avery race day certification. You can call it your own name race day certification. Just make sure you put race day certification in there somewhere. Next, set the time zone to New York time zone. It should be the default time for whatever your computer clock is. So just, if you're in Western time zone, use that time zone. But if you're in, Eastern, use Eastern. The location. So this is going to be just a test. So basically, you can make up whatever you want for the address. I do 123 Test Street all the time. You can set the city to anything you'd like. I think you have to make sure that's a valid zip code. So you can do, your local zip code if you want to, whatever you want. So I'm just going to do my hometown. Okay, next we're going to add in the URL tag. The URL tag is basically when we create a race on RunSignup, it creates a URL for us for this race that you can go to visit the results page. So you're not putting in like the website of this race, like www.mattaverysrace.com. You're putting in some text that's going to be added on to the URL at RunSignup when it gets created. So by default, it just puts in here the name of the race, and that usually can work. if it doesn't work, you might have to make it unique by adding in some more characters. So, I might have a race already out there called Matt Avery Race Day Certification. And if it tells you after you try to create it that it's already in use, just add some numbers and that'll make it unique. All right. And next, enter the email here for the race contact email. You don't have to do this. This is basically something that you can do if you are setting up an event for someone and they want to have access to it. You can put the contact email of the actual race director. So if someone else's race that you're setting up, you can put their email address in here. So like, Matthew Avery 42, I could put in there a different email address if it was someone else. And the race timer, this is basically going to pull your timer account in that you are connected to so that it will associate it with your timer account. You shouldn't ever have to change this unless you had more than one timer account. Okay, so we have the basic info for the race here. And next we're going to add in event info. So again, like we discussed in the last one, there's races and there's events. Races are like the whole thing, the big structure. Events are the items within that race. So you have your 5K, 10K, whatever. In this example race, it's going to be very straightforward. We're just going to have a single 5K. So to do that, just in your form here, we got this event name field, and we are going to just put 5K for the name. And we are going to then select a run or run walk. Doesn't really matter what you pick here, you just have to pick something. So let's just say run or run walk. It's only needed to set up the race on RunSignup. It's not used for scoring whatsoever. So you can just set it to run or run walk. Next, we are going to set up the start time. So basically what this is doing is it's mimicking what would happen on RunSignup with a registration event, where the RunSignup race sets things up and they say that they anticipate the race to start at 7:45 p.m. Now, we aren't going to use this for scoring purposes unless you completely forget to enter a gun time, but basically it gets put into the approximate gun time in the scoring software once we get down further. So for today, it's very important that we have the right dates and the right times set up because, again, everything is based on date timestamps in RaceDay scoring. So make sure that you have this date set correctly here. It's imperative we get this right. So all of our dates are going to be 4/4/2024. Make sure we got this right, 4/4/2024. This is going to set up all the default dates in the software. So if you get this wrong, you're going to have to just make some changes to make all of your date timestamps defaults to the right race date. So just make sure you get this correct from the get-go. So 4/4/2024. And we're going to say that this is a 7:45 p.m. This is an evening race. This is unusual, but make sure we got that right. We also want to make sure as we're setting up these different time filters that we have the correct AM or PM all the times. So just make sure we get this right from the get-go here. Okay. Next, we're going to be scoring a basic 5K. So let's just add a distance unit, a distance of 5 and a unit of kilometers here. So with race day scoring, you don't have to make the distance unit the same as the pace type you want to report with. So for instance, if I say 5K, I can always report the pace in minutes per mile. We do the math for you and figure that out. In the same way, if you were doing a bike race, you could do a 20K or 100K bike ride, and you could report it in miles per hour. It's not contingent on getting this unit in the right format from here. So if you are doing a 5K, I usually don't recommend you enter in 3.14 or 5, whatever the conversion is. Just enter in 5K, and we'll figure out the pace later. All right, so we don't need to add another event here. This is going to be just a 5K. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and click create. If you were doing a race like a 10K along with a 5K, you would add it right here, but we are not going to do that. So let's just go ahead and click create. And this is going to create the race and race day scoring and publish it to RunSignup, ready for you to start collecting reads and start pushing results if you want to. So let's just go ahead and click create. And we should have the race loaded like this. Go see. All right, so let's see if everybody was able to create the race. And if you weren't, go ahead and use the questions panel, put a note in. If you need assistance, ask for it, we'll help you out. Good, looks like everybody is on the right track. All right, let's move on. Next thing we're gonna do is start the participant sync function. So this will kind of kickstart the syncing process so that as soon as I start getting data into RaceDay scoring about participants, those updates and changes will go to RunSignup automatically. So if this were a race that was already on RunSignup, this is also the place where I could pull down additional information, like if they had custom questions and club membership info. Today, we are going to be importing from a spreadsheet, so we won't be able to demonstrate any of that. But this is also where you would manage that information if we did have it here. All you do, on the left, the next little item down, click Participant Sync, and then on the right, click Save Sync Settings. So that big green button. All right, let's do it here. So Participant Sync, and all we're going to do is click Save Sync Settings. All right, so now our software is syncing, and as soon as we start adding participants here, they would actually show on RunSignup as well. All right, and next what we're going to do is actually pull in that participant list that we gave access to. So first, again, we're going to be importing from a file because it's very easy to demonstrate to a lot of people at one time. It's not as easy to demonstrate how to have everybody connect to a race on RunSignup and pull the data down. When we first started doing these certification classes in person, we had a whole big fiasco where we created a race that everybody connected to, and it worked. But the problem was that one person decides they want to change a bib number or change someone's name. That change gets reflected on everybody's computers, and someone decided to delete all the participants. So everybody's participants got deleted. So it's a little bit more difficult to demonstrate the import from RunSignup to a class of many. So today it's just we just do a spreadsheet import, and if you wanted to learn how to do the RunSignup integration, we recommend doing that with a real event or a test event that you have set up yourself. Okay. So let's go to the participants tab and get started importing this spreadsheet. So go to participants, click import, and we have already done this step, but if you missed it, download the file, unzip it, save it to your desktop or wherever. It's also in the handout if you need access to it. We're going to browse for that file. All the fields should be auto-mapped correctly, so you shouldn't have to change anything here, but I'll show you as we go through where you could if you needed to. And then we'll start the import and verify that all the participants got imported. So let's just walk that through a little bit slower here. Okay, so I went to my participants tab here. I'm going to go to import. Now I'm going to choose my file. And I'm going to go to my desktop. I have my sample participant list right here. I'm going to select my CSV. Go ahead and open it. And so what you'll see is this little section. It tells you select and map columns from my spreadsheet to include in this import. So we include, you know, on the left here, this is any fields in RaceDay scoring, and on the right, there are drop downs for each of the fields that are included in my spreadsheet. So we saw that there was a column that was called first name, there was a column called last name, a column called gender, a column called age, and we determined that first name probably means first. So we automatically selected that for you. Similarly, we had an event in our system, and we saw event name in the spreadsheet, so we figured that that's probably, you know, what we want to map to. There was bib number, we mapped that to bib, city, state, zip. We mapped to postal code, looks good. And yeah, that's it. So if you did have other fields like date of birth, you could map that manually. We try to do a good job of mapping these automatically for you. We have all sorts of other things, like if you had team or bib or you know, phone or email or whatever included in your spreadsheet and you wanted to import them here, you could do that. I didn't include things like street address, but you could if you wanted to. So once you have verified that these all look good, you can go ahead at the bottom and just click add or update participants. And it's going to say, hey, are you sure you want to import these 1,825 participants? Just click yes, start import. So we should see that we have added all of these participants and 0 were updated. Okay, so let's see. Were we able to import the participant list? Looks like we had 1 or 2 people maybe who were not able to do that. If you're still struggling, if you're having problems, again, feel free to put a note in the questions panel. We'll help you out. So this is just showing what you need to do. Go ahead and click add update participants. And you should see all of them get pulled in. Okay, moving on. Let's get started with setting up streams. So again, streams are RaceDay Scoring's way of connecting to external sources of timing data. This could be a chip system middleware via a TCP/IP exporter, or what we call direct connect, or a folder that you are dropping CSV files into. Later on, streams feed their raw read data into timing locations, which can be filtered in many numerous ways to produce scored reads. So we're going to be setting up this file stream today. And some tips on file stream in particular. RaceDay scoring never points directly to a single file. So we never say, I've got this text file or this specific CSV file that I want to import. What we do is we say, here is a folder that's going to contain files at some point. And I'm going to set it up in advance so that I know on race morning, some files are going to appear in that folder. And throughout the day, more files may be added or more records to a single file may be added to that folder. What RaceDay scoring does is it says, consider all the times from all the files within that folder equally. So if you have 5 files, it doesn't care. It's just saying that's one big giant stream of data. So you can dump as many files as you want into a folder. It's just going to reference the files themselves, like if you had a CSV file, a text file, whatever, all in there together equally. So some systems have different file extension types. You could say that you wanted to make sure you only imported files that ended in .log or .txt or .csv. That's possible. We usually default this depending on your chip system type that you are configuring. But for today, you won't have to worry about that too much. One more note, RaceDay scoring imports times from a folder as long as the reads are currently being collected. So at the top, you'll see that there is a little indicator that says reads, and it's red right now because we are not trying to look for new reads in any of the streams. So when you are ready to start collecting reads, you would actually just click that button at the top to start collecting reads. So there are some chip systems that require a totally different type of setup, specifically RFID timing, iPico, and Trident. They're very different. So for any information on specifics of setting up streams for these different system types, we have a whole bunch of specialized guides on them. Today is going to be a MyLapse file stream. So this is just help guides and all the different things we have, and we have little videos on people actually showing how they use the software. Oops. So what we're going to do today is we're actually going to use a MyLapse file stream type. So let's get started. First, we're going to go to the streams setup. Click Add Stream here. And then we're going to fill out all the info. So let's just walk through that first. So before I move away from that, let's just verify we got stuff in here. So in the participants area, we should now see that we have a whole bunch of names. All of our participants are in here. You'll see that I've got a bunch of pages, got 8,000 or 1,825. You can use the search to look up different people. All the Davids show. You can search by bib number and so on and so forth. Okay, now we've seen that this is all working properly. We're going to go to streams and we are going to add a stream. So let's go ahead and just click add stream here, and we'll name it MyLapse file finish. Doesn't really matter what you call it, just whatever you want to. Today we're going to be saying that this is just for a finish reader, so we're not collecting start times. It's just a reader I have sitting at the finish line, and I'm going to go ahead and call it MyLapse. And I know it's a file type, so I'm going to say that in the name too. Anything that can help me identify this down the road is helpful. So again, these streams come in two main varieties, direct and file. Each chip system type can use a file or a direct stream type depending on your needs. Direct streams use a connection via TCP/IP to either device itself or middleware provided by your hardware. So MyLapse has timing and scoring, ChronoTrack has Fusion, iPico, those readers, they actually connect it directly to the hardware, so they're different. Again, this is just to demonstrate every chip system is different. Reach out if you have a question about this chip system that you're using. We couldn't possibly do these sessions for each and every single one, so we are just going to use MyLapse today. It's pretty straightforward and one of our most popular systems that people use. So we're just going to set up this MyLapse readlite file stream. So again, file streams reference a folder on your computer where chip read files will be placed and updated either by the device itself, middleware, or even potentially by Dropbox or Google Drive or OneDrive. So there's not a benefit or detriment to doing direct versus file. They both will update in about the same amount of time. So as soon as a read happens and is in the file, so on like MyLapse timing and scoring, you can set it to write out new files every 1 second. As soon as a new read is sensed there, we pick it up and pull it in. as long as the connector is running and reads are being connected or collected, those reads are going to come in right away in a file stream. So we usually recommend file streams because they are the the best way to identify if there are issues. You can go back to the file itself and look at it. Direct streams are good as well, but sometimes the connection will drop from the TCP/IP connection, and those are harder to diagnose. So we think that the file stream is a little bit more reliable. So today we're going to just show you how to do the file stream because we're not going to be showing you how to use MyLapse middleware. So here, let's just go ahead and select a stream type. So again, we've said it's a MyLapse file finish. And what we're going to do now, oops. What we're going to do now is select the stream type. So from the first dropdown stream type here, we need to pick, what type is it? Is it one of the direct types or is it a file type? So even though it is a MyLapse one, we're not going to pick MyLapse direct because we're not doing direct. We're going to pick file, custom, or chip system type. And now I select, okay, I know it's file. What system type of file am I going to use? And from this second file type dropdown, I get to pick which system type. So these are all the different systems we have. We also have a custom or custom type down here you can use if you wanted to import a custom file or you had some backup timer that you wanted to import reads from. You could build your own formatting. For today, we're just going to pick MyLapse readLite file. Now, when we do this, you'll see the stream type actually change. This other drop down up here. That's fine. It's okay. See how they both say MyLapse readLite file? It's totally expected. So you'll see here now I have MyLapse readLite file selected under file type. That's the most important thing. So both will match stream type and file type after you selected MyLapse readLite file. That's intended. That's how it's supposed to work. All right, and now we are going to select the folder path. So with like timing and scoring, you can create a new folder and dump all your reads into it. Today, we just have a file of an example file that we're going to point to. So let's just go to the stream and select browse here in the folder path. And we're going to pick on the desktop wherever I put my my chip reads folder. And we're going to pick the actual main file here. It looks like I have an extra folder inside of that file. I didn't mean to do that, but that won't be a problem. Let me just see here. Yeah, shouldn't be a problem. May have been an issue when I zipped up the file. But we'll see on the desktop where I unzip my file, there's the text file in there with a whole bunch of reads and another folder. It's fine if you just point to this higher level sample chip reads, or if you point to this one, they have the same data in them. I just messed up when I zipped the file up. It should only reference this file because it's the only file within that folder. So what we're going to do again is just go to the sample chip reads folder and select folder. You could pick that one too. It wouldn't make a difference in the end. So again, we're picking a folder and all the files within it are selected. So don't freak out if you don't see the .txt file in there. It's just picking the actual folder, not the file. So it should be something like, users, your user downloads / sample chip reads. So again, make sure you select sample chip reads here. You could also create a new folder. You don't have to do that. You can also just use the one in the zip file. So basically, you just want to make sure you have a file or a folder that contains the file that we have given you. So just a note, this is not necessarily for today, but in general, you wouldn't want to be pointing to like your entire desktop because a lot of folks have really messy desktops. They have a lot of files on the desktop itself. So I have a pretty clean one right now, but if I were to like use this desktop items folder that I dump all my stuff into, I have a whole lot of CSV files and other things in here. What the system is going to do is it's going to try to look at every single file inside of this folder and to see if there are any valid reads inside of it. So if you have all this messy data in there, it's going to cause you problems for sure. So you really want to make sure you have a clean folder and you're putting your files in there just from your chip system. So usually the timers, I'll see them have a folder called today's reads, and they just dump in all the reads for the race today. And then at the end of the day, they get all of the reads out of there and they put them in an archive folder or something. Okay, so
Hey,
yeah.
oh, sorry. Can you just quickly, that setting, the stream level setting that some people have where they have their default set to like IPCO or some other chip system?
Yeah.
Could you just show that really quick?
Sure.
A couple
So
questions on
if
that.
you are having issues, like you're unable to select a specific type here. Oops. What may have happened is if you are using this global settings here, it may be that you are saying that you only time with RFID. And what that does is it will restrict your options here to only those that would be applicable. So if you don't see like MyLapse in here, it's probably because you have set your defaults to exclude MyLapse. So if that were the case and you're not seeing MyLapse, go to settings under the streams area and just click none here, or revert to defaults works too. And then click save settings. This will allow you to see all of the info. So again, I'm going to select file customer chip system and then MyLapse read light file. All right.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay. So next, we are going to set the file extension. This is a completely optional thing. Basically, it's going to limit the types of files that the stream looks at within this folder. So we default this to txt for MyLapse, which is what all MyLapse files are output as, and it will only reference files that end in txt. Now, you can make this blank, and it will reference all file types in that folder. So either way, shouldn't matter. For us, our only file inside of our sample chip reads is a text format one, this one right here. So regardless of if I set this to nothing or set it to txt, it will work the same way. If you are using this, just be aware you don't want to have a period in front. We do that for you. So do not include the period before the extension right here. And again, if you leave it blank, all files in the folder will be used. Okay, next, we need to set the system type. So this is a chip system level setting that MyLapse timers wouldn't have to worry about, or non-MyLapse timers wouldn't have to worry about, but we do for this scenario. This is a file that we grabbed from a race that was scored with MyLapse bib tag systems. So we have to tell the system what type we are using. So go ahead and just select bib tag there. All right, now we are going to assign our stream to a timing location. Again, remember, streams are getting all of the reads from that file and dumping it into the software. Locations are where we decide, okay, now what do I do with all those reads? So this stream, I have decided is going to be a finish already. So I'm going to assign it as the main stream for my finish location. I'm not going to use a start for this race. So most of the time, you always want to assign your chip systems as main streams. and reserve any backup streams for if you had a manual timing system, like a time machine or a summit timer, or if you were just like typing in backup entries into a CSV file and we're using that. So basically the way this works is backup streams are used only if I am missing reads on the main streams for participants. So basically most of the time, if you had a bunch of different readers, you would just list all of those streams as main systems. But each system is done a little bit differently. And even MyLapse timers handle things differently because some MyLapse timers will put each reader on its own location in timing and scoring, and other timers will do it all of the readers into a single location. So everything's a bit different, but basically we usually recommend you just put all of your chip scoring systems as main streams and any backup ones like manual systems as backups. There are situations where you may not want to do that, but that's once you get into actual examples, you'll start to learn how this operates. For today, all we're going to do is just assign this as the main stream, and that's typically what you would want to do. Next, we have to adjust the stream read dates. This is a very important setting, especially for races that are test races or in the future or in the past. Because we're using a chip file from an old race, and the race we are scoring is in the future, we have to fake out the data so it looks like it's coming in on the day of the race. Recall that all of the way that RaceDay scoring works is it's looking at a bunch of date timestamps and is doing math between them to give you the difference between two dates and times. So basically, if you don't get this right, all of your reads are going to be on the wrong date and all of your net times are going to be different. So we're going to make sure that we change all the read dates to 4/4/2024, the date of the race. So we give you a shortcut to do this in here to say, I want to change all my read dates to the race date. So go ahead and just click change all read dates to set to race date. And it will automatically pull in the race date from our setup earlier. And when we process reads, it's going to translate them to as if they were happening on the 4th of April in 2024. So with MyLapse, it's important to do this always because the way that they format their reads, they don't include date in the passing data. So with MyLapse, by default, it does not include anything about date in it. So you have to make sure that you change all the read dates to the day of the race. Otherwise, it's going to be processed as if it was happening today. So that may or may not be a problem. If you're processing things on the day of the race, not a problem. But if you're processing on the next day, you're going to make some adjustments, need to replay all your reads, well, the system doesn't know any better, and it's going to automatically change the reads to the day you're processing the reads, which, in that case, wouldn't be correct. So you'll want to use this setting, and that's why we tell you to, really highly recommend to use this button to automatically convert to the race date. Otherwise, it's just going to use the date of the computer. So again, click set to race date, and that's what you want for today. All right, and so the rest of the settings down here, you don't have to worry about for today. We're just going to go ahead and click save. And you should see that my new stream here is showing up in my assigned streams area because I have assigned it to a location in the race that I have loaded here. All right, so again, this is kind of like what we would want. This looks like an old screenshot. It was actually for 2024. So let's just see if everybody was able to create a stream here. Looks like some folks were still struggling to create this. Again, put the notes that you have, any issues that you're having, into the questions panel, and our team will help you out. All right. Next, we're going to get into timing locations. And then I think after timing locations, we're going to take a little break so we can give some time for those who are behind to catch up, and everyone else can just take, grab some coffee or whatever. So let's get started on timing locations. A reminder, timing locations are collections of one or many streams of read data. The read data from those streams is filtered based on the location type. Reads at a start location are selected based on the last time seen for each bib, and for finish or split locations, the reads are selected based on the first time seen. And importantly, those timing locations are where you set up your time filters. This is really important. These time filters allow you to control what ranges of times should be considered valid for this timing location. So these are the big things about timing locations. The type determines which read to pick, and the filter determines the range that is valid. Again, it's possible to have one stream to many timing locations, and also many streams can be tied to one location. It allows you to do a whole bunch of different things if you need to. Allows you to have multiple devices assigned to the same location, or a single device assigned to multiple locations at once. Ladder can be useful if you need to have separate time filters for one event, or if you have multiple distances running over the same location at different times. So very flexible with this. And what we recommend is just figuring out what your common usage is of how you get times off of your readers, and we can give you some best practices, some guidance on that if you reach out to us directly. So again, we automatically set up a start and finish timing location, but you can decide to change the default setup around if you want to have a single common start finish location, for instance, or if you had a split point, or if you had whatever, you had different start or finish locations for different events. You can do all that. So first, let's go to the finish timing location setup on RaceDay scoring and click settings. This is going to be the area where you set up the filter ranges and the timing location type. So in the app, let's go to timing locations, and we have our start and finish. If you wanted to, you could delete start. You don't have to. Today, we're just going to set up the finish location. So go into the settings of the finish location. And in here, what we're going to do is set up the time filter. So on the right-hand side, we need to tell the system to consider finish or split times after this time of day right here. So this essentially is the earliest expected finish time. So for today, we're going to set this to 8:01 p.m. Remember, our race start was around 7:45, so I'm going to say everything after 8:01. That sounds valid, and if we need to, we can adjust later. But for this race, I know there were no finishers before 8:01, so everything before 8:01 should be filtered out. All reads before this time will be ignored and not considered as potential finish or split location times. So I don't have to worry at all about this total number of occurrences. This is a simple race where they just hit the finish once. If it were a situation where they were hitting this multiple times, You could say 2, 3, 4, or whatever, however many reads you intend on collecting here. If it's like they finish in the 4th occurrence, you could do that. Again, today, we're just going to leave it at 1. And once you get that, we can go ahead and click Save. At the top here, though, you can change a few things if you needed to. No, you don't have to today. This is just what you would do for other situations. You could change it to a start and finish or just start times. This determines what you can do with this location. You can, only make a finish location an actual finish when you're setting up your scored events, and you can only make a start location a start when you're setting up scored events. Let's go ahead and click Save, and we'll be good to go. So again, just make sure we have this set 4/4/2024, 8:01 p.m. Again, this is going to filter out any raw reads from any streams assigned to this location that took place before this time. Now, the raw reads, they'll be filtered out, but you can still view all the data about them. So you can troubleshoot it and see like, oh, I did have a read for someone at 8:00:59 p.m. And it got filtered by time. So you could see that, oh, maybe I set this a little bit too late and it really should be 8 exactly. You could change that and recalculate your times to make sure it accepts those reads that came in prior to your original filter here. All right, so again, we can set this occurrence count. Today, it's going to be just 1. So we only have to, there's only 1 time a participant's going to be hitting it that I will be doing anything with. So I'm just going to leave this at 1. Okay, and we are going to be taking a little break now. So I know there's a few folks who we're still catching up. So let me just see where we are at with setting up timing locations. And before we go on a break here, let's just see how we are doing. All right, looks like we still have some folks who are having trouble. Shoot us a note in the questions panel if you're really struggling, and we will follow up with you and help you out. For the others, we are going to be taking a 15-minute break. So what I'll do again is say that we are going to, come back at, let's see, 2:30 p.m. EST. And when we return, we'll be finishing off the scored events, top finishers, age groups, reads, and running reports. So this is the hardest part that we've gotten to so far. Getting past these streams and the timing locations is really the most difficult thing. Once we get past this, it's really smooth sailing. So I know it's been difficult, but we'll get there. So see you guys in about 15 minutes. Okay, we are back and gonna proceed forward with certification. So let's get started. So like I said, we are getting pretty close to being done. The hard part is behind us, I think. So these next steps are not as complicated as the first ones, so it should be smooth sailing from here on out. The next big thing we're going to do is set up our scored events. So again, like we had discussed in the last session, scored events are collections of participants from one or many registration events. Sometimes we need to combine multiple registration events together. Other times we just need a single registration event and a single scored event. In this case, we just have a 5K registration event. We just have a 5K scored event. So it's very simple and straightforward. So what we're going to do is go to the Scored Events tab and click Quick Setup. This is just going to automatically create a scored event for each registration event I have in the list here. So let's just walk through that. Go to scored events, and we'll see that says, hey, I've got a registration event here that's not mapped to a scored event. So if I want to include participants registered for these, I need to map them to a scored event. So let's just go ahead and click Quick Setup to do it for me. All right, so what we're going to do here is just go ahead and enter in the name of it as 5K, score by clock time. We are going to exclude chip time from the default reports. We don't want to show chip time because it doesn't mean anything for us today. We're not collecting start reads. We're going to select that the 5K event is included, it should be by default. All this info here should be pre-filled for me correctly. The default event distance is 5 kilometers, and the default pace type is minutes per mile. Down here on the right, we want to make sure that we enter in the actual start time. So this was the actual official start time of day, 7:44:00.013 p.m. So I'm just going to go ahead and enter that in. And make sure we got PM. If you enter AM, we're going to have some really long net times. So this is what we should have set up here. Just like I said, most important thing you have to worry about when we go here is just this actual start time right now. Gonna click save. And that would be all I would need to do for scored events today. And let me just check to see if I have any other polls. That's fine, yep. Next, we're going to add our top finishers and age groups. So again, top finisher categories are like overall top 3 male, female, masters top 3 male and female, so on and so forth. So we're going to do today top 3 overall male, female, and top 1 masters. So first, go to age groups tab here. And then we're going to click set top finishers. From this screen, we're going to click add another band. We're going to select overall as the description. And we'll see that it defaults in males to 3 and females to 3. You can leave that as is. Just go ahead and click save. So this is fine. If you don't have any non-binary runners in your event, you can set this to 0, but it doesn't matter. If there are no qualifiers for a band, it just won't show them at all. So you don't have to worry about that. Just go ahead and click save. Okay, we now have our overall band set up. Next, we're going to click add another band, and we are going to add a masters band. For this one, we're going to set the description to masters. The starting age should be left at 40. That's the default for masters, so we're going to leave it there. And we are going to set the male and female, and you can set non-binary too, but it doesn't matter. There weren't any non-binary participants in this race, to 1. And we can set that to 1 too. So you'll see when we do this, there's a whole bunch of different settings when you add a second band here. Oops, let me do that. So when you add a second band, you can decide how you want your band jumping rules to work. And what that means is when you have band jumping rules, if a participant qualifies for more than 1 band, what should I do? That's the question that you're answering here. Should I allow them to all of them to jump to the higher band? Should I say no one should jump to the higher band? Should I allow people to get both category awards? Or should I set a rule that says position 1 has a value of 100, position 2 has a value of 75, whatever. So this is basically usually the case that you would set this to all, because usually if a 50-year-old who qualified for the master's band because they were older than 50, if they get first place overall, probably want them to win the overall category and not the master's category. Now, it's not always the case, but traditionally that's what you would want. This is a question you kind of have to ask your registration coordinator about what they expect for awards. They may want to be nice and give everybody all the awards they qualify for. So you can say double dip so they get both overall and masters if you wanted to. In addition, there is a setting here, age group double dipping setting, to say, should the winners of this category be removed from their age groups? By default, we say yes, they should be removed from their age groups. If you don't want that, you can say, no, I don't want to remove them from their age groups. For today, I want to remove them from their age groups, and I want band jumping set to all. So if a 50-year-old wins the overall, man, they deserve it. They should get it. So that's all we need here. And we have our overall and our masters. And we're going to go ahead and close out of this screen once we are done. Okay. Now we're going to add our age bands. So go ahead in the age group setup and click Create Ranges. This will basically be a really easy way to add all of the age bands that you need in one go without having to manually add them one at a time. So if you click Create Ranges, it'll bring up this screen where you can enter in the range size, what genders you're going to create, the starting age, ending age, number of winners, so on and so forth. So let's just go to Range Insert. And what we are going to do, again, is set the range size to 5. What you'll see is this list on the right expand a bit because it's going to give us a preview of all the bands we're going to add. I'm going to use just female and male age bands. I'm going to start my age range at 10. And I'm going to end at 79. And I'm going to say that I have 3 winners per category. And this will help later on as I do my awards reporting. By default, I do want to insert the upper and lower age groups. So I have these 1 to 19 and 80 to 99 bands. If you said no, those will disappear. For today, I do want to include those. So everybody who is 1 to 9 gets put into that category. Anybody ages 80 to 99 gets put in that category. Once you get this set up, let's go ahead and click Add Ranges. So again, that's the type of settings we're looking for here. And now we should see that we have all of our age groups in. So let's just see if everybody's on the same page. Were we able to set up top finisher categories and age groups? All right, everybody seems to be good. So we'll move on. Now we are ready to start actually collecting our reads. So if we go into our dashboard in RaceDay scoring, oh, I do want to save. Now I have my age groups all saved. At the top, we are just going to start collecting reads. So this little reads indicator will say it's red at first because we are not collecting reads. Just click it and it will turn green eventually. So go ahead and click Start Collecting Reads and click Yes, Start the Connector. So this is going to start looking for any existing reads in that folder, and it will pull all of them in, and if you did have changes, like new reads that showed up in there, they will automatically get pulled in. So this will take a second or two, and we'll start to see some things going on here. So we already have the reads in the folder for you automatically, so you shouldn't have to drop the reads into the folder unless you were using a different folder you created. When we walked through this, we already had the reads in the folder, so this should be happening for you automatically. So what you want to do is just take a look, and you'll start to see that you have some raw reads here, some finished reads there. You'll see you have some top males and top females in the leaderboard section. So that's good. Let's hope and see that we have got everybody able to collect reads. So let's just launch a poll quick and see if we were able to get those reads in. You're able to see some of those names and things appear in the software. Looks like some folks are having issues getting the reads to show up. So if you are struggling with that, put a note in the questions panel. We'll help you out. So if you are not able to see reads here, first thing to check, make sure that this reads thing is green right here. That will say that you actually have your reads in there. You should see that if you click this notifications tab, you should see this notice, this info message. It's not an error, just an info saying that existing reads were detected and sent to scoring. So this means that I saw some reads in a file and I imported them for you. So you should see that, and you should see some things happening in the dashboard. Another thing that could happen is you may see raw reads, but no scored reads. And if that were the case, then you may have to change your filtering rules or change something, because if all of your reads are being ignored, it could be because you don't have the date time set correctly in one aspect of the race setup. So if you actually click this raw reads count right here, it will show you all the raw reads, if they were selected or not selected, and any details about all of the reads, like these ones. I had a better read selected for Angelina, so this read was ignored because I had an earlier one that took priority over it. So we're going to go ahead and look at our reports now. So on the software, just go to the reports tab, and we can start to take a look at what reports look like. So here, if you go to reports, you can see I have a 5K age group report and a 5K overall report. Like I said, these two got created for us by default. If you want to, you can change them or add new ones. These are just the defaults. So you can go and click the overall report, and we can see, everybody's ranked by their clock time. You can search by bib number. You wanted to look up someone's information or someone's time right here. You can search by name if you wanted to do that as well. We show the gender place and their age group place, and we can see we got our top finisher categories here, our masters and our overall. We got our age groups right here. If you wanted to print this, you can just go ahead and click print right here, nice and easy. Or you can print from this export option here. You can also view the default age group report. We just show everybody who qualified for each category, including top finishers. So we got 3 overall male, 3 overall female, 1 masters male, 1 masters female, And then all my age groupers, I show all the way through here, and so on and so forth. You can print that out as well. So if you do want to play around with your reports, you can do all sorts of things with them. You can rename them, add report sections, reorder report sections, edit report sections, add top finishers, and so on. So what we usually recommend is leaving your default overall report here as is, or you can change the columns around and so forth. But if you wanted to create like filtered reports, or if you wanted to add a report that had a bunch of different sections in it, you probably want to build that manually. So I'll do a quick overview of what you can do with reports now. You don't have to know all this right now. This is not a part of the certification quiz. It's just if you are wanting to learn a little bit more about it. You can come in here and click Actions, Edit. This brings you into the report builder. Reports are one or many report sections. These are report sections, these little blocks here. So if you wanted to add a report section, you could do that using this little area here. And I could say I wanted to add a different overall section here. This will include all the participants from my scored event that I have selected right here. And you can change the column order, add filtering, whatever you want. I'm not going to do that. What I will do is say I want to edit my columns, because I may or may not want some of these fields to show, or I might want to change the order of the fields. Maybe I want my paste to show over here. You can just drag and drop it to reorder. I want my state up. It already shows the state. That's right. So you can do all sorts of stuff here. I'm just gonna leave this as is. I moved the pace around, but that's fine. And that will just change the order of my columns as such. Again, if you wanted to create new reports, you can do that right here. Click Build Report, and you can name it whatever you want. Select the event you want to add a report section for. We have some things around column templates. If you wanted to play around with that, you can. It's just basically if you have a set of column order that you like to use in most of your events, you can create a template for it. I'm just going to create an overall section with a default template. And I could, change things around, add another section. I could add a pre-race list, which is just all my participants sorted by last name, first name, for instance. So let's just look at my test report as created. That's just, last name, first name order if I wanted to do something like that. So you have a lot of options here. Let's move on. So like I said, you can find information in the reports themselves by searching by first, last, or bib in the reports. You can also find more information about results for a participant by looking up on the participant view, the bib number, clicking their name, and finding this results panel. So if I wanted to view info about 3822, I could go in here and click their name, and I would see their segment time for the entire race by clock. If I had a bunch of different segments, it would list them here. You can see all their rankings and the timestamp of their finish read. You can do all sorts of things. You can click View Raw Reads. What that does is it brings you to that raw reads table, filtered by bib number. So Alan only got one single read, and we selected it for him. Now, throughout the app, you'll find that you can click links. So you'll see here, I have each of these participants listed are the top finishers for the gender. I can click their name, and it brings me to their participant record. So I can quickly change anything I need to from here. If I needed to update their gender or their age or their category or whatever, or I needed to disqualify them, I could do that right here. So you have easy access to change anything you need to. So if you saw like someone pop up and you needed to change them, you could really easily access their info and change it as needed. Similarly, you can click this scored reads view and see like, oh, this was this person was in the wrong category, I need to change it, you can go in here, update their info, and go back as needed. All right, so the final thing we'll do is we are going to publish these results to RunSignup. So again, if you are setting up a race and you're worried about messing things up on RunSignup, you're just trying to test things out, don't worry. You can go ahead and collect reads and import times and do everything we've done without touching RunSignup results. In order to do that, what you have to do is actually set up an autosave. So go to the report, select autosave. So let's do that for our overall report here. We're going to pick autosave settings. Click this plus button next to run signup results, and we are going to set up an autosave to run signup results. So we're going to autosave. I think we limit this to 30 seconds now. We can't do every 5 seconds. And then what we will do is you can set the result set title to whatever you want. The default is just the name of the report, usually fine. Set the scored event to 5K. Pace display can be time per mile. These defaults are usually all you need. So you can just leave this as is and just go ahead and click add stream. If you are publishing to an existing result set on RunSignup, you could find the result set ID and paste it in here. By default, we always create a new result set, so be careful if you are publishing results to an race that already has results there and you want to overwrite them. You will not automatically overwrite existing results unless you actually went out and found the results ID and pasted it into here. So by default, just leave this blank and we'll create a new set. So only use this if you want to overwrite existing results. So just click add stream. And then we're going to click save settings. So again, just go ahead and click add stream and then save settings. Now you can go ahead and just see this live results links drop down because we have set up our autosave, and we'll be able to click view results. So we should see results up on RunSignup shortly, if not right away. Yep. So we should see all of our results here. And now that I have my autosave running, I see that I have my green light on my autosaves. So this means that I currently am publishing results to RunSignup, and if I were to make a change, that change would automatically get pushed up to RunSignup results. So if I were to drop Johnson or disqualify him, he would be removed the next time a push went up. So you can see here this report autosave section. This will allow me to see, if I click view manage autosaves, the last time it was run. So 256:37 was the last time it was run, and it will update after every 30 seconds with each push that goes up. So in a little bit here, this will change and we'll see the next push go up at some point. And that will let me see that things are updating correctly. So now it's 257:07. So I know that my autosaves are running. If I wanted to, I can just pause autosaves by clicking autosaves up here. And now it's red. And then I can enable it again and we'll start publishing back to RunSignup. So it's just that simple to get started with RunSignup results. And you can always access the RunSignup results from the main dashboard as well. You'll find that if you click the name of the race in this little toolbar, you'll have some nice easy access things right here. So you can click view results right from the toolbar and it will bring you to that same page. My 5K results. And on here, again, we didn't have to publish the age group report, and yet I have all of my age groups and my top finisher categories here because we did that for you automatically. All right. Yep, so like I said, you can pause and resume autosaves from this report section autosaves down here, or from the toolbar at the top with the indicator. All right, so before we do this part, let's just see if everyone was able to publish results to RunSignup. Good, seems like most folks were able to get the results published. All right, so the next step we're going to do is submit our race file for review and take the quiz. So the biggest thing is that you need to actually take the little quiz. It's very straightforward, not very complicated. It's just asking you to give us the placements of a few participants, just to identify that you're able to process everything. One big thing is it's always asking for place. I find that a lot of folks will enter in the time of the participant that they're entering, that they have been asked about, but it's always the place that we're asking for. And so just make sure you read the questions carefully and respond accordingly. So just go ahead and click here to submit the quiz and just finish the quiz in the browser. Some people have gotten clever and tried to download the actual quiz file. That doesn't work. Just click the link, complete the quiz in your browser, and you should be good. So I'll be grading these and releasing scores probably by tomorrow afternoon. I'll have it finished up, but if you do it today. But feel free to take the quiz at your leisure, and whenever you are ready, you can submit it. We basically keep the certification class open on a rolling basis at this point, and we will be recording this and distributing it out afterwards. If someone on your team needs to get certified, they can do it at any time. So this quiz is always open and available. Feel free to take it and submit it yourself, or once we get the materials ready, you can give it out to anyone and they can take it and submit it themselves. When we get the quizzes all together, we just review them as they come in and certify folks as they take it. So when you do the quiz, we do ask that you click Get Help and submit a help ticket here. So this will give us a copy of the race file that you're working on so that we can verify everything was set up correctly. If something was wrong, we'll just double check. Sometimes I've had it like something is wrong in someone's quiz just because they disqualified someone when I mentioned disqualifying people, and that changed the places of everyone, so it didn't match the quiz. And so I can see pretty easily when that happens. So just make sure you submit this quiz as a part of your, or submit the ticket as a part of the quiz. All right, so what's next? This is, like I said, just a basic introduction to RaceDay scoring. It certainly will not cover all of the questions that you have, and it will not cover all of the complicated things that you run into as a timer. It's just a simple 5K. So we do have a ton of great resources on help.readyscoring.com. So we have a lot of guides there, but they're not always up to date. We try to keep up with it, but it's pretty hard to with the amount of releases that we do. So if you have a question about something in particular, best thing you can do is click Get Help right here, and that will again send us a copy of the race you're working on. And if you have a specific question that's best, we can help you with that. If you're saying, hey, I'm trying to do this and it's doing this other thing, what's wrong? We can quickly identify that and assist you. And if you wanted to do a one-on-one, again, Chris McDonald is our go-to. He's our timing expert. And best thing to do with him is to present to him, hey, I have this race scenario, this crazy thing that someone wants to do. How would you do it? Chris will be able to assist you with that. So best thing you can do is bring to him a specific type of scenario or a list of questions that you have, so that you can have a good conversation, and he'll be able to give you some best practices on it. So you can book time with him right here at this link, calendly.com/RSU RaceDay tools, or you can use the buttons in the Get Help area on RaceDay scoring. All right, and I think that is everything. So what we'll do again is have you guys work on the quizzes and submit them at your own pace. You should have everything you need in the docs available to you to go back and review. We have all of the steps you need to complete in that little document. So you should be good. Any questions that you have, feel free to reach out. Again, I've given you a lot of ways to get in touch with us. So I think that is everything for today. So we'll leave it open for probably another 10 minutes if people are still having trouble with publishing results to RunSignup. So if you are still struggling, again, feel free to use the questions panel and we'll assist you with that. All right, looks like I'm seeing quizzes already being submitted. That's good news. So I think we are all set for today. Again, if you have any questions about other areas of the software or more complicated scenarios, reach out to us on support. Use the in-app help or contact us direct, raceday@runsignup.com. That's our support address, and we'll help you out. Thanks again for joining us today, and look forward to working with you soon. Bye, everyone.